Dear Internet, what up? It's me, Slutsky. I'm sending you this message into the near endless void we all know as you for a couple of reasons. First, holy shit, what an invention! The way you work is surprisingly not that much different from how phones work. In the prehistory of our species, telephones were actually not automatic. Each caller got an aux hole and an address. If I wanted to call you, I would call the switchboard operator and give them your address. The operator would then plug the aux in, and electrical signals would then carry our voice from one speaker to another. Eventually, automatic switchboards came out, and the days of blood popping in the aux so you could talk to your friends were over. Now imagine whatever you want to tell your friend as a packet of data. You insert the packet of data into your computer, and you give them an online address for your friend. Your computer then sends the message to an internet switchboard operator, called a router, and the operator tries to find the most efficient way to connect you to. And since the switchboard operator in this case is a machine, it is so much faster and cheaper than an actual person. Now scale this up to where every person who owns a device can talk to anyone else, and basically, the public internet is just one big conference call. Simple enough concept. But I really do think people forget the sheer magnitude of your importance. If we live a nice long life for our species, I think it'll go down as one of our most single consequential inventions of all time. This is an idea I've had for a couple months and managed to create a really good analogy for. First, you have to imagine the internet like a road, where at first wait, what is... You're telling me the Hank Green put out a video on the exact subject I wanted to cover? Hell, that dude had more time in my class than half of my teachers in high school. And he... fuckity fuck. To be fair to Hank, his video did come out about 2 months before mine did. Hank's video really keyed me in that I need to adequately explain the impact that the internet has had on us. If I don't do that, I'm at risk of sounding like a paranoid schizophrenic ranting about how the internet is controlling people's minds. With that said, let's get into a quick crash course on the history of communication. Humans have evolved to be a social species. In junction with our intelligence, we could team up to do things far beyond the ability of just one person. If you think differently, I'll buy you a $20 Walmart machete so you can start your solo survival experience. The point is, you're not going to make it past a couple of months without a lot of help or prep time. Us being a social species gave us organization, but eventually we invented something better. Oral communication allowed us to do a couple of things, but the most important among which is the learning ability. Being able to communicate to your dumber-than-average caveman friend that the food he is holding is actually poisonous is probably an effective survival strategy. As long as we had someone that could hold all of our stories, humans could learn countless things without ever having to look at source material. Well, learning is cool, but our memories aren't actually perfect. Every time you try to remember an original event, you aren't actually remembering the first time you saw that thing. You're just remembering the last time you remembered it. It's essentially like playing a massive game of telephone, where every time you think of that thing, you're introducing a new person. After enough time, you will not get the same message that was originally written down. Humans also have the unfortunate habit of dying. If you had a wise shaman a part of your group, and he died, potential generations of knowledge would also die with him. Written communication solved both of these. Now instead of carrying the baton from generation to generation, human ideas could potentially last tens of thousands of years. Now as long as you were using the same symbol as the person reading, you could be dead for thousands of years and still be effectively communicating. Okay, so now we have some of the big stuff out of the way. You can now give your ideas to others, and also carve your ideas into eternity. But so what? Communication is only important if someone's there to hear it. So how can you make it easier to go viral? If you just said, make more copies of the same copy, congratulations. You might be a goldsmith from the 13th century named Johannes Gutenberg. It really was a simple idea. Writing takes a really long time to do. Instead of writing down just one page at a time, what if you printed a lot of pages at once? The idea behind modular printing was probably around far before Gutenberg, and similar enough, presses were probably made as far back as 2000 BC China. If you have heard of the printing press, you probably know how colossal its impacts were. Hell, we have like 2 or 3 periods of human enlightenment to thank for it, and even so, it took people a while to figure out the best use of the technology. Technology is great, but if we don't know how to best use it, it's probably not going to be that effective. Give a smartphone to a really old person, and they're not making it past the lock screen. I think 2 things in particular slow down the use of the press. 1. the price of paper. And 2, the fact that each page still took forever to arrange with blocks. Don't forget, you have to make your ideas go viral in 14th century Europe. But luckily, there is one invention that solves every single problem. The almighty pamphlet. Okay, what? Not what you're expecting? Well, the simple concept of putting your idea on short-form content actually spread like wildfire. Who would have thought? In fact, Gutenberg himself printed a couple hundred pamphlets, but only one book, the Bible. If you remember anything from high school history, you'll remember how Martin Luther, no king, posted his 95 problems with the church, nailing that son of a bitch right on them Catholic doors to really piss them off. Well, actually, the event that probably jump-started the religious Reformation was the other 30,000 copies Martin Luther made. This really was an odd time to be a human. For the first time, a person could share an idea to the ends of the earth, irrespective of what the most powerful institutions at the time had to say about it. The next important upgrade for us was instant communication. Warfare in particular was starting to see the benefits of communicative technology, but to see this, I'll have to join 3 similar inventions into the same category. They effectively do the same thing, but just with different methods. Our first stop is in 1844 with the first modern step in our communicative journey, with Samuel Morse and his beat machine. This was used in everything from war to train stations, but there was one problem. The signal needed to be transmitted through a wire. Radio, however, solved this problem exquisitely, with only 1 or maybe 1.5 downsides. Your enemies could also hear it, and it didn't really transmit relatively far. The latter could be fixed with bouncing signals off the ionosphere to get potentially thousands of miles of range, but the signal being public meant that you could only slow down OPSEC breaches with codes like the German Enigma. Thanks, Turing. On July 23, 1963, America got its first real taste of soft power. Telstar 1, a satcom made by AT&T, relayed its first broadcast, including media legend Walter Cronkite, pictures of the Statue of Liberty, a baseball game, and our very own President Kennedy addressing another continent in real time for the first time. When you put all of these instant communications in place simultaneously, you're beginning to have a very robust communication network with the entire planet. So now, you have the infrastructure to spread your messages as far as the eye can exist. Now, you just need a way to get those eyes looking all day, every day, for any and every message they're willing to listen to. So what are the consequences of giving 5.5 billion individuals unadulterated internet access? Well, the consequences? The consequences are goddamn terrifying. When Americans first introduced cars into our society, it was fucking mayhem. At first, it was only the trailblazers rich enough to get out of the habit of walking. Initially, because they were so expensive to buy, cars were rare and regulation wasn't strictly necessary. But then automation and assembly lines happened and cars got cheaper. Soon, everyone got disgusted at the prospect of walking and started to drive themselves. This just is not safe. You had people that probably should have learned how to drive a car before they got in one, people who committed crimes in cars, and worst out of all of them, people who did not understand the responsibility of operating a 2,000-pound projectile. Even if you followed every rule, the society around you had just spent the last 6,000 odd years walking in the street. They weren't accustomed to complicated safety procedures like, looking both ways. Joking aside, we had to make these laws. There are hundreds of reasons why passing a stopped school bus can get your license immediately taken away. We gatekept who could drive in the first place by handing out licenses and made it possible to lose the privilege. We made illegal activities on the road hard to get away with, like having to register your car to your name. We punished certain irresponsible practices like drinking and driving. We forced people to engage in safety practices like mandating seatbelts. We forced the manufacturers to also follow rules like safety features, performance tests, and emission standards. All of these practices have reduced deaths by about a factor of 30, and that's with way more people on the road. With new technologies, we need guardrails, because to say humans are responsible is also to admit arrogance in the same words. You might be able to see what I'm trying to get at here. These two analogies, or stories, have to be used in conjunction. The former hopefully gives us a scale on the impact of the technology, and the second one is meant to highlight there does exist problems with any new technology. Comparing them is easy, but the ability for change is massively helped by the sheer brutality of what happens when moving fast goes wrong. When you see a lifted truck that runs over a group of kids getting off a bus, you have to be a monster to push back against measures to correct and prevent future situations like that. But information is benign. It can fester for years, subtly influencing the decisions you make without you even having to be aware. This Western civilization of ours was founded on the inability of the government to restrict speech. However, given enough people, there will be bad faith actors looking to capitalize on the veritable goldmine of public interest. And let's not forget the irresponsible people innocently wielding the influence of a small country in a less than ideal manner. And then you have people that probably shouldn't have been allowed to use the internet in the first place. Shot past a school bus. There are so many people acting in so many different ways. How do you know what pamphlet you should read? How do you know what writers are honest? And how do you know what ones are actually saying something worth listening to? This video was conceptual, but I think it highlights the direction I want this channel to go in. When talking about events in the macroscopic, simple concepts get extremely multifaceted. Take civil engineering and environmental engineering. Both seem like the same field, but environmental is always more complicated and nuanced, based on the amount of compounding factors there is to consider. There is a functional limit to how much information humans can process. And because the internet has made everything so interconnected, concepts that are common parlance are way too multifaceted for the average person reasonably charged with knowing. We only have a grasp on the consensus, or the average conclusion. So let's hope everyone can handle the sheer amount of information. That is you. Sincerely, Sleuthski.